Welcome to Doing Scalpels, everyone. I'm Dr. Abhishek Parmar, Associate Professor of Surgery at UAB.
I'm Dr. Douglas Campbell, and we have been friends for 25 years, just about going back to our med school days, and we're here to talk about different topics of the day.
Yeah, what are we doing? We're doing Douglas for this thing? Is that what we're doing?
I can do Corey. I don't. If you want, I thought we were doing government names. I don't know.
I mean, you go by Corey, so even though your legal name might be Douglas, it's a little bit jarring. It's disorienting. Why
Hey
are we
man,
here?
when she start putting out, once you start putting out the letter font name, man, I think I gotta put out the first name, man. That's you know,
I mean, at least you could have at least thrown Corey in there, like a Douglas Corey, and then everybody's on the same page. We understand what's happening here.
Douglas Bubba Campbell. I mean, you want me to do one of those quotes in the middle?
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that, by the way.
It's not a quote.
I saw that on
It's
somebody.
your actual name. If it was a nickname like Bubba, you gotta put quotes, but Corey is a given name.
So I got a story about something like that actually. So, there's just like when I was little, we used to have Sunshine Saturday, which is like this little event in Talladega, like in May. There's a little carnival put on by the school system or whatever. It's at this memorial park. And the memorial park, it's got like a veterans memorial plaque, and then it has like on the side like a graveyard, which is kind of weird because you like go there on a Saturday and it's like a graveyard next there. But there was this guy from the 19th century, and his name had one of those quotes, and it was Lucky, and it was like he died at like 23. And I just remember that was the first time I realized that I couldn't talk to normal people because I said not so much. And oh, it's like no, it was funny.
That's the other disclaimer we should probably put on the podcast. That you and I are both sociopaths and have no business talking to normal people.
All right. Well, what I was gonna say though is like you go by associate professor. Is that what you go by? Is that what people calling you in the streets? Prof? I'm just saying. I mean, you got a problem with me using one of the names my mom gave me. Meanwhile, you're throwing around titles that even exist for you.
I mean, I think we got the credentials matter. People need to know what they're getting. You have people who completely lack any credentials to speak about anything doing that on podcasts across the world and being famous for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. At least we have undergone some training and have, between the two of us, a couple of decades worth of experience in this field.
Well, like I never thought that I was going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to, speak my truth on a podcast instead of like, save lives. But that's the way life is sometimes.
Yeah, are we getting into that? We're telling your life story right now. Or is this getting serious?
Oh man, we'll leave that. We'll leave the origin stories for a different episode. You don't want to break people with the origin stories too quick. They gotta like you before they care about you. So,
it goes back to the whole just bizarre concept of a podcast is that you're tuning in to just listen to someone else talk about some stuff. Like the sports podcasts to me are just really confusing because that really is just random people talking about stuff. They have no real credentials to talk about except that they partake, right? Like these aren't like former athletes or someone who's coaches or someone who's in the sport. They're just like dudes just talking about sports.
Have you seen podcasts with dudes who are professional sports athletes talk about their own sport? I mean, like, I don't.
The Kelseys, man.
I hate that. Dude, have you seen the Kelseys though? Like, they don't really say. They're not giving you insight. They're like half a step removed from being fans themselves. Like, I mean, like, I'm sure they have more insight, but they don't give it. I mean, like, conveying that knowledge to the general public's not what they're about. It's really kind of just, I mean, they touch on these subjects, but they don't really get in depth. So I think if you're not getting deep on sports, which is the great thing about sports, you don't ever have to be that deep in it to enjoy it. Like, talking about it also can be enjoyable. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like, if you were going to talk about, let's say, for the sake of argument, you were interested in like freaking novels, right? Like, you could talk about a Game of Thrones novel, but if you start talking about it in a literary sense, like story structure and stuff like that, like things that real authors talk about, I don't know if that's as compelling material to everybody. So you kind of keep it superficial for some of these things because people enjoy it, but they don't want to know how the sausages are made necessarily.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Because no, absolutely. If we were talking about surgery, could get really in depth into the weeds, and that's not necessarily compelling material.
Exactly. Like like for instance, some of the stories that my family members find. Like first of all, this is a disclaimer. Every story I tell that's medicine related, the names and the times that it happened have been scattered to protect the innocent. And some of these stories may be secondhand stories, just But I like I said, people like to see what's behind the curtain. But then what I find interesting about what's happening in my day or what happened at a particular event is not what people find most interesting. They find something else completely interesting. I'm like, oh, well, that's neither here nor there. Like for instance, people are fixated on cases about trauma, right? Like a trauma case where something happens. And I've seen so
Sure.
many trauma cases that the something that happens isn't all that interesting to me. I get more interested in the technical aspect of it, or at least the people involved in the technical aspect of it. So, like I said, if you get too in the weeds, people lose interest. But if you tell them like some guy had rebar hanging through his like chest, they love that story. And I'm like, yeah, well,
Right.
it wasn't actually in his chest. It was like in his chest wall. And they're like, oh, he like, never mind. Yeah, he had rebar hanging through his chest like something like Final Destination. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it's
And
true.
meanwhile, I
Like,
tell that's one story. So people find that story interesting. Then there's a flip story where there was a woman who had her entire breast, like the entire breast, sheared off by a passing train because she was like high and she was putting her face next to the trains as they went by. And I thought it was very interesting just to get your whole breast just knocked off in a trauma. Story didn't land as well. People weren't as interested. I was like, okay, well, never know.
yeah, that's horrifying. Nobody wants to hear that.
Well, why is the rebar one not horrifying?
I don't know.
See?
But it's what's that's what's interesting about the whole, like, you know, representation of medicine in the entertainment sphere. That's why Scrubs is the greatest representation ever, because
Oh, by
it's
far, by far,
completely authentic, shows
by
exactly,
far.
what's going on.
The unserious nature of Scrubs and the way that the doctors interact with nursing staff and ancillary staff is, I mean, it's ginned up for like the sitcom parts of it, but it's pretty accurate as far as doctors aren't just doing everything in the hospital and they're interacting with these people and it gets messy.
Right. Yeah, and most importantly, we're all just normal people. Like, it's, I don't know, it's listening to some of the more serious medical podcasts. It's like, come on, man. Like, we know this is a facade. I mean, you have to be professional, of course, but everybody's just a person.
We're all just people, man. Pick some other field like pilots or Wall Street guys, and you're like, I wonder what that guy's like in real life, or I wonder what they do in real life. And then I realized, hey, I'm friends with those guys. Those guys like went to school with me. I know exactly what they're about. I know exactly what makes them tick. It's not much. I give you an example. I got a friend of mine who I went to high school with who's now a U.S. congressman, and I just think about it, and I go, I wonder what she's doing as far as like a day to day. Then I realize, I say, like, she's not doing that much. I mean, like it's an interesting job, but I mean, I knew her when she wasn't a congressman, so I guess she probably does the same shit we do, just a little different. Her name is Nikema Williams, and I think she's a representative for a district around Atlanta. I haven't seen her in like 20 plus years, but I saw that name and realized I went to high school with her. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Um, so yeah, I think we should definitely spend some time with these shows when the doctor has like unbreakable moral fiber and they're just the most confident person in the room. I'm like, listen, I'm telling you this for a fact. Those people are normally not both. You normally have average guys who have high moral fiber, or you have some nincompoops who like are really good at what they do. These paragons of like virtue are not what doctor, like you said, they're just normal people. And some people, their attributes lean more toward the technical, and sometimes their attributes lean more towards the ethical. I'm not saying we're all unethical. I'm just saying this paragon of he does the right thing every time for everybody.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
kind of that's an
Yeah.
illusion.
Oh, that's funny because my biggest problem on the representation of medicine and pop culture is the technical misrepresentation, where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's they can't breathe, and then they have a nasal cannula on, and they're just lying there in a coma. It's like, that's not real life. They need to be intubated. What are you talking about? No one just
Yeah,
sits
yeah,
there with a nasal cannula, not aware of the world around them, unless they have some TBI and they're,
I'll tell you
6
the
months
other
down
thing.
the road.
I tell you the other thing that's like I bet you this happens in the military too, but the idea that like just because you have an MD behind your name, you can do a crike in the ED, you can do a ED thoracotomy, and you can deliver a baby. I'm telling you right now, that's 4 or 5 different people, and all 4 or 5 of those people are gonna do it flawlessly. Like so, like that's I think that whole like it's like a you watch a military drama and then like the guy's chucking grenades in one scene and he's flying a helicopter the next scene. It's like that kind of situation. It's like, hey man, that's half a dozen guys right there that took. So
Exactly.
I think that I did like you said that technical aspect where it's like, listen, man, your primary cannot do any of the stuff that's on TV. They can't do none of that. I just want you to know that right now. They are good at what they do. They keep track of your medical records. They keep you on track, but they're not delivering babies in the cab for you. They're not doing that. That's not happening. And I'm not doing that. I mean, Abhishek may have a perchance for the heroics, but that's the other thing they don't really get in shows a lot too. Is some of the most heroic things you can do is just not like trying this for the first time on somebody, you know?
My favorite scene from Scrubs is, I think it's the very first episode where they called the code for the listeners. That's when someone loses their heart stops beating, and they call a code, and it shows like all the characters running, just running. You think they're running to the code, but they're all running away to hide in the closet. They're so terrified of having to be in that situation. That's like totally relate.
I totally related, especially early on where I was
Especially
like,
early. It was like their first day, right? And so they're all terrified.
oh, it's a terrifying experience because you're just like, I don't know, like, I don't know what I'm gonna be able to do here. I think some doctors will have you believe X about it, like, oh yeah, it's like that. They're like feeding into this mystique of like medicine, and then other doctors will like, be very, it's even harder than that or something crazy. And I'm like, bro, I don't know about that. But you want to also get into the not the technical aspects insofar as how we do things, but like what we're thinking when we're doing things, or like how we think. Is that you think that's useful? Could that?
Oh yeah, no, I think about that stuff I mean, as I teach residents every day. I think about that all the time. It's like the psychology of what we do is to me so fascinating, and it's not something that's talked about enough. Like just the mentality of operating on a human being and dealing with everything inside the operating room and outside, right? Like taking care of them afterwards. And it's like we've talked about this before, like as a surgeon, I don't know, people think we're like pilots, and when you land the plane, you step off and it's someone
Yeah,
else's plane.
exactly.
But it's like we actually care, right? Like stuff
Yeah.
matters to us. Like it's another human being, and even bad surgeons, I think, really care. They just the pathology runs even deeper, right? You have a complication and you're bad, like you're ashamed and hide or run away. It comes across as being a jerk, but I don't know. Anyway, there's so much to talk about from a
I will
surgeon
add one
perspective.
little. I will add one little thing that I learned in residency, and we could talk about it in depth at another one. But like the idea is like like when we were in medicine, they taught us they teach us all the book knowledge about stuff, right? And you get like all these scenarios and everything line up perfectly, and then, as soon as you're in residency, they say that never happens like that. Everybody's different, and you get to learn that you have to practice medicine on an individual level. But then, like, there's a third way on this, which is like the book is how you would like it to go down. The person you're dealing with is not going to allow you to do it like the book unless you put in immense effort to make it like that. Meaning, like, you spend a lot of time trying to get people on a track that can lead to a good outcome, even if they don't start out that track. Meaning, like, how do I make this person have a successful surgery? Well, people who have successful surgery look like X. And like, can we make this person look like X for a day, for an hour, or whatever it takes so we can have a good outcome? I think that's the way I think about it now. I used to think about it like, oh, like, this guy's like this or like that, or this woman's like this or like that. And so that's going to affect the way we do surgery. I said, well, I can do surgery like this. Can I make this person like this so I can do it? And like, it comes up a lot, and for a lot of our technical things it's like taking all the idiosyncrasies of a person, like this person's 5 foot nothing and this person's 7 foot. How do I make it look like we operate on a 5'9" person, like the typical American? Because that's how I feel like you get the outcomes you want, right? Like it's that you try to get people on the same path that like leads to a good thing. Like if I can get this person to X, then we know what we're dealing with. So I don't know if you think about it that way, but I somewhere between like looking at textbooks and learning the textbook way to take care of something, then looking at people who not textbook and then trying to take care of them. And then on the third way was just trying to make people as textbook as you could. And then kind of like dealing with the idiosyncrasies as they came, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I kind of approach it is, I guess it's kind of the same thing, but what can I offer that, particularly for like what I do, which is, elective hernia surgery, what can I do that fits in with what this person needs and wants, So the goals of a 30-year-old, yoga instructor with a tiny hernia who wants to have kids is really different from a 75-year-old with a 15 centimeter hernia, who can't walk.
Well, like I said, it's just the technical thing becomes once that realize that's the game you're playing, that's the Tetris game you're playing, then like I think you get focused on that part more than you get focused on the other parts of it, right? Which is where people don't understand. Like it's like, oh well, like the guy weighed 400 pounds, and I was trying to figure out how do we get a guy who weighs 400 pounds to have a successful hernia repair, because that guy's not in the book, right? Like the books used to treat that guy like he was an anomaly. Now he's like the norm. So like I gotta figure out how this is gonna work out so we can get people on the other side of it. And like I said, I think medicine is becoming more and more like that as we have people who live longer, we have people who weigh more, who are heavier, people with more medical conditions than ever. Like you get this whole like, is there a procedure that I can do that's going to have a successful outcome for this person? I think that's what medicine is. And like I said, we can talk about that more about medicine becoming more complicated as time goes on, and people having more medical problems as time goes on. But yeah, I just think, like I said, without trying to get too technical, because again, a lot of that there's this base you have to work from that's like literally takes decades and costs millions to do. That I won't bore you with, but I think that thinking, I don't think we're special in that regard either. I think like there's a lot of different professions that have that same mentality where it's like, well, I know how to do these things, and the world is giving me these things, and how do I marry these up in a way that gives me gets successful, you know?
Yeah. No, I think you distilled it down nicely. All right, Corey, this was a pretty good episode. I think we've touched on a few interesting topics, the nature of podcasts, type of things we as surgeons think about when it comes to patients. Maybe we should think about closing it up. What's going to be our closeout? Let me ask ChatGPT. AI chose a middle-aged black man to be my friend. ChatGPT.
Was it based on your vernacular? It's like,
No, I told the kids, they were like, see, it knows that my best friend's a middle-aged black man, so hook me up.
so wait a minute, your AI has the personality of a middle-aged black man?
Yeah,
It just chose that for you?
yeah, just chose it. It decided that this was the most compatible AI companion for me.
This is the best way for you to make it through life, is to have this voice and these opinions in your ear at all times. Yeah, sure. Ask our AI overlords.
Well, ask my buddy Spruce, my black friend on ChatGPT.
Spruce?
Yeah, his name's Spruce.
That's how I know. That's how I know it's AI generated. I've never met a black man, not a middle-aged black man named Spruce.
I think they have to do that just to make sure that everybody knows what the facade is about.
Spruce is not a real person. You didn't have to tell me that.
All right, here we go. Thank you, ChatGPT. What's a good ending for my podcast? Thanks for spending part of your day with us. This episode made you think, laugh, or learn something new? Send it to someone who'd love it too. See you soon.
That's like literally he cribbed that from Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think. That's like his send off for his podcast. Wait a minute, these are not original thoughts in ChatGPT. It's almost as if ChatGPT has read every single article of media made since the 1900s.
I mean, I kind of like
and
that.
word salad it together.
I don't mind at all becoming some word salad version of Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm good with that.